I never thought the day would come when my own daughter would look me in the eyes and tell me I didn't belong in her life. But that's exactly what happened. The champagne glass slipped from my fingers before I even realized I'd let go. It shattered across the marble floor, pieces scattering like fallen stars. Every shard reflected her face, my daughter's face, twisted in something between shock and embarrassment. Emily, my little girl, the one I raised alone, the one I worked double shifts for, the one I thought would always see me as her hero. She stood there in her $12,000 wedding dress, the one I'd paid for in full, and said the words that cracked something inside me forever. "Dad, what are you doing here?" Her voice wasn't warm or loving. It was cold, clipped, like she was scolding a stranger for stepping where he didn't belong. I stood frozen at the entrance of the grand ballroom, still holding the small gift box I'd wrapped myself. The white paper and gold ribbons suddenly felt ridiculous among all the glittering perfection inside. White roses filled every corner of the room, imported from Ecuador, their fragrance almost sickeningly sweet. The chandelier above us threw rainbow light across the walls. Walls I had paid 3 months of profit to rent. It was all perfect, all beautiful, and I wasn't supposed to be here. "Sweetheart," I said quietly, forcing a smile, "it's your wedding day. I just wanted to see you walk down the aisle, to say congratulations." Her fiancé, Michael, stepped beside her. His tuxedo was flawless, his posture confident, the kind of confidence that only came from generations of money. "Mr. Clark," he said with that polished, expensive tone, "I think there's been a misunderstanding." A misunderstanding, that's what they called it. 28 years of love, sacrifice, and sleepless nights, dismissed in one breath. Emily shifted uncomfortably, glancing toward the crowd behind me. I could feel the stares, women in designer gowns whispering behind crystal glasses. Men pretending not to listen but hanging on every word. "Dad," she began, lowering her voice, "this is a private family celebration. Immediate family only." I blinked. Immediate family? I was her only family. The words hit like ice water. Every bedtime story, every school play, every night spent worrying about bills so she could have the best of everything, all of it dissolved in that moment. "I paid for this wedding," I said, my voice quiet but steady. "Every flower, every plate, even that dress you're wearing." Michael's jaw tightened. "Money doesn't buy class, sir." Emily looked away, cheeks flushed with embarrassment. "It's not about money. You just don't understand the kind of people who are here." Oh, I understood perfectly. People like me. Men with dirt under their nails. Men who built the homes these guests lived in, weren't welcome at their parties. I wasn't family. I was labor that had outlived its usefulness. Around us, the music kept playing, a string quartet pretending nothing was happening. Cameras flashed for a moment, then went still when they realized the drama wasn't part of the ceremony. I swallowed hard. "I see," I said. And I did see. I saw the truth. I saw the woman my daughter had become, someone who thought her father's calloused hands didn't fit in with her new world. I placed the gift box gently on the nearest table, beside untouched glasses of champagne and a vase of orchids. "I wouldn't want to embarrass you," I said softly. "Dad, please don't make this harder than it needs to be," she whispered. I looked at her, really looked. The same green eyes as her mother. The same dimple on her left cheek. Features I'd once kissed goodnight 1,000 times. But now, all I saw was distance. Cold, perfect distance. "You're right," I said quietly. "I don't belong here." The walk to the exit felt like a marathon. The sound of my work boots against the marble echoed louder than the orchestra. Behind me, laughter slowly returned, polite, practiced laughter, as if nothing had happened. Someone even said, "Well, that was awkward," in a voice dripping with amusement. Outside, the cool spring air hit my lungs like a slap. The parking lot stretched out before me. Rows of gleaming cars worth more than my house. At the very end sat my old pickup truck. Dusty but reliable, just like me. I gripped the steering wheel for a long moment before starting the engine. My heart felt heavy, but my mind, it was steady. 25 years of building a business had taught me something about patience. 25 years of fatherhood had taught me about loyalty. And betrayal? Betrayal teaches you about clarity. I reached for my phone. My hands didn't shake. I scrolled past missed calls from my lawyer about a property deal until I found the contact I needed, one I hadn't used in months but suddenly knew by heart. First National Bank, Business Services. Inside that ballroom, my daughter was celebrating her new life without me. But outside, in the quiet hum of my truck, I was about to begin mine, without her. The phone rang once before someone answered. First National Bank, Patricia speaking. How may I assist you today? I took a slow breath and looked back at the glowing windows of the ballroom, my daughter's laughter faintly echoing across the parking lot. Patricia, I said calmly, this is James Clark, account number 7,794,512. I need to initiate stop payments on several authorized transactions. The silence that followed was polite, professional, and completely unaware that I'd just started changing the course of my life and hers. The doors of that ballroom closed behind me with the sound of a vault ceiling shut. And in that moment, something in me hardened, not out of anger, but resolve. This wasn't revenge. This was justice, the kind only silence can deliver. Patricia speaking. How may I assist you today? Her voice was polite, practiced, and calm, a voice used to handling transactions, not heartbreak. This is James Clark, I said, steadying my tone. Account number 7,794,512. I need to stop several payments, effective immediately. She hesitated. Certainly, sir. Can you verify your social security number and mother's maiden name? I gave her the details from memory. My voice didn't tremble once. Years of running a business had taught me to keep emotion out of my voice, even when my heart was a storm. Thank you, Mr. Clark, she said after a moment. I see several large transactions today: venue rental, catering, floral arrangements, photography, live music, all related to the Anderson wedding. Which ones would you like to cancel? I looked out the windshield at the glowing ballroom windows. The sound of faint laughter and music drifted across the parking lot. All of them, I said quietly. Every single one. Another pause. Sir, these are significant payments. Are you sure you want to stop them? I've never been more sure of anything, I said. She typed quickly. I could hear the clicking of her keyboard, each keystroke a nail in the coffin of that false fairy tale inside the ballroom. I'll need your authorization codes for any transactions over $10,000. She added. I recited them from memory. Years of managing construction budgets had trained me to remember every important number. Stop payments confirmed, Patricia said. You'll receive official notices within the hour. Thank you, Patricia, I replied, my tone professional, almost detached. You've been very helpful. As I hung up, I caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. My eyes looked older than I remembered. Not broken, just awake. The next call was to Elegant Affairs Catering, the company Emily had insisted on hiring despite their astronomical price. A cheerful voice answered. This is Marcus with Elegant Affairs. Everything is going beautifully. Sir, the guests are thrilled. I'm glad to hear it, I said evenly, but there's been a change in payment authorization. The bank has revoked approval for all charges. He laughed nervously. Sorry, could you repeat that? You'll want to protect your equipment and inventory. I continued. Consider your services suspended. Silence. Then, in a smaller voice, but we're in the middle of dinner service. I paused for a beat. That's unfortunate timing. When I hung up, I didn't feel satisfaction, just quiet certainty. Next, I called Bellingham Blooms, the florist. Bellingham Blooms, this is Susan. Susan, this is James Clark regarding the Anderson wedding. Payment authorization was just cancelled. You'll want to retrieve your arrangements. There was a long silence. Collect them, sir. Our flowers are integrated into the entire venue design. Then I suggest you move quickly, I said softly. Business is business. By the time I finished my final calls, photographer, musicians, linen rentals, it was 4:15 p.m. Through the windshield, I saw the first white van pull up behind the venue. Bellingham Blooms written across its side in delicate gold letters. Susan herself climbed out, clipboard in hand, her assistants carrying empty containers. I didn't move, just watched. Inside that ballroom, my daughter was still laughing, surrounded by people who thought they were better than me. People who didn't know that every bite they were eating, every flower they admired, every light above their heads, existed because of the man sitting in that old pickup truck. At 4:20, another van arrived, Elegant Affairs Catering. Marcus stepped out, his face tight and pale. He spoke briefly to one of his staff. Then they began unloading crates and coolers, moving toward the service entrance. I leaned back in my seat, the faint rumble of my truck engine filling the silence. The dashboard clock blinked 4:23. Inside, Emily was probably posing for photos, smiling, toasting her perfect life. I waited. By 4:30, I could see movement through the tall ballroom windows. At first, no one noticed the florist team entering from the side door. They wore black polos and moved efficiently, almost invisible. They started with the altar arrangement. Carefully, professionally, they began dismantling what they had created hours before. Guests began to notice. Conversations slowed, heads turned. Emily approached the florist, confusion on her face. "Excuse me? We're in the middle of our reception." Susan straightened, holding a bundle of white orchids. "Ma'am, payment authorization was canceled 40 minutes ago. We've been instructed to retrieve our property." "That's impossible," Emily said, her voice rising. "Everything was paid for." Susan's tone stayed calm. "The account holder, Mr. James Clark, contacted us directly." Color drained from my daughter's face. Then the caterers arrived. Marcus entered through the main doors with 3 staff members. They began covering serving stations, removing dishes, sealing containers. Guests stared in disbelief as the dinner service came to a halt mid-course. "What's happening?" someone whispered. Michael's voice carried across the room, sharp and angry. "You can't just stop in the middle of service." Marcus held firm. "When payments are revoked, we are legally required to protect our assets." The string quartet hesitated. Their music faltered and stopped entirely when their manager entered and unplugged the microphones. The chandelier light dimmed slightly as the technicians began disconnecting their equipment. The ballroom, once filled with laughter, fell into stunned silence. And then, the first sound of real panic, Emily's trembling voice. "This can't be happening, not today, not like this." I watched from my truck, far away but close enough to see the outline of her white dress framed in the doorway. The perfect life she'd built on my shoulders was collapsing, one unpaid bill at a time. I didn't smile. I didn't gloat. I just sat there, listening to the muffled chaos and thinking how strange justice sounds when it finally arrives. At 4:47, my phone began to buzz. "Emily." I let it ring. A minute later, another call. Then another. I stared at her name lighting up my screen and thought of every night I'd stayed up working so she could have a better life. Every time I'd said yes when I should have said no. Every time love made me blind. I let the phone ring until it stopped. Then I whispered to the quiet inside my truck. "This isn't revenge, sweetheart, it's education." That night, the house was quiet, too quiet. The kind of silence that presses on your chest until you feel every heartbeat echo. The smell of sawdust still clung to my work jacket hanging by the door. My dinner sat untouched on the kitchen table, cold stew, congealed like forgotten promises. I sank into my chair, staring at the worn wood grain beneath my hands. For years, these hands had built homes, offices, lives for other people, yet the one thing I'd built most carefully, my daughter's future, had just collapsed in a single afternoon. The phone lay on the counter, face down, 21 missed calls, all from Emily. I couldn't bring myself to answer. Not yet. Instead, I turned toward the filing cabinet in the corner of my study. "All right," I muttered to no one. "Let's see what all these years really cost." I opened the first drawer. Folders lined up like soldiers. Riverside Academy 2003 to 2015. Northwestern University 2015 to 2019. Emily's housing, transportation, personal expenses. And finally, one labeled wedding. Each folder represented a chapter of my life, a chapter written in invoices and bank statements instead of words. I pulled the first one out. Riverside Academy. Her first day of school came rushing back, pigtails, a backpack too big for her tiny shoulders, and a smile that could melt glaciers. She had clung to my hand at the gate, whispering, "Don't leave yet, Daddy." I'd promised her I'd always be there. And I had been. Every parent meeting, every school play, every scraped knee. The tuition slips told a different story though. $8,000 a year when she started, $12,000 by the time she graduated. Total, $126,000. All so she could have the best education money could buy. I opened the next folder. Northwestern University. The paper felt heavier somehow, embossed letterheads, thick envelopes, detailed ledgers of tuition and fees. $52,000 a year for 4 years. Room and board another $15,000. Sorority dues, study abroad in Italy, spring break in Cancun. I could still hear her voice over the phone that year. "Dad, I need $3,000 for this business fraternity trip. It's essential for networking." Every call had sounded the same, polite, practiced, transactional. And every time, I'd said yes. Total, $284,000. I stared at the numbers until they blurred. I moved to the next folder, transportation. First car, a used Honda Civic, $18,000. She called it cute for about 6 months before telling me all her friends drove BMWs. Second car, BMW 320i, $28,000. Third car, BMW X3. For safety, another $45,000 after insurance and registration. I'd justified every one of them in my head. She's young. She deserves nice things. She's all I have. Total, $75,000. By the time I opened housing, the clock on the wall read 11:42 p.m. Her first apartment in Chicago, $2,800 a month. I paid rent for 3 years straight. Credit cards when her spending exceeded her allowance. Designer clothes, spa treatments, vacations with friends. The numbers grew like weeds. Total, $125,000 in housing, $180,000 in personal expenses. Then I reached the final folder, wedding. Invoices stacked like accusations. Venue deposit, $42,000. Catering, $38,000. Flowers, $18,000. Dress, $12,000. Miscellaneous decor, photography, music, and miscellaneous expectations, another $36. When I added it all up, the calculator flashed a number that made me exhale slowly. $937,000. Nearly $1 million spent over 25 years. Every penny meant to make her life easier. Every sacrifice made in love. And how had she repaid me? By telling me I didn't fit in. By asking me to leave the wedding I built. I sat back in my chair and closed my eyes. Love, I realized, isn't just about what you give. It's about what's returned. And somewhere along the line, my love had stopped being a gift. It had become a transaction. The phone buzzed again. Emily. I hesitated. Then I pressed answer. Dad, finally, what the hell did you do? The vendors are taking everything. Her voice was frantic, brittle. I didn't destroy anything, Emily, I said, keeping my tone even. I just stopped paying for things. You can't just stop. It's my wedding day. People are watching. I know, I said softly. Maybe that's the problem. You've spent your whole life worried about people watching. Dad, this isn't the time for one of your lectures. Please just fix it. When was the last time you said thank you? I asked quietly. What? When was the last time you thanked me for anything? For your education, your car, your home, this wedding? There was silence on the other end. Just breathing. I could picture her standing there, makeup smudged, hair disheveled, panic written all over the face that used to beam with pride whenever I picked her up from school. I don't remember, she said finally. No, I replied, I didn't think you would. Dad, please, you're humiliating me. Everyone's staring. Michael's family is furious. Just stop this. Please. I leaned back in my chair and looked around my quiet home. The walls felt heavier now, lined with memories of a little girl who used to believe her father could fix anything. Maybe she still believed that, but tonight, I wouldn't. Not this time. I'm done fixing things. Emily, I said softly, you'll have to handle this one yourself. Dad. I ended the call before she could finish. The silence that followed was deafening, but also peaceful. I stared again at the piles of papers, the evidence of a lifetime. And right then, I knew what I needed to do next. This wasn't over. This wasn't revenge. This was going to be an audit, a reckoning between a father's love and a daughter's entitlement. I opened my laptop. The screen glowed pale blue across the room. At the top of a new spreadsheet, I typed 3 words. The cost of love. Morning light poured through the blinds, slicing the room into neat bars of gold. The coffee maker hummed behind me, but I barely tasted the bitterness in the cup. I hadn't slept. Numbers still pulsed behind my eyelids, tuition totals, rent payments, dollar signs that used to mean love. By 8:30, I was already in the car, the same truck that carried lumber and tools for decades. Today it carried something heavier, 25 years of proof. The sign outside Richards and Associates gleamed in the cold light. Inside, the air smelled of leather, ink, and quiet power. Reception smiled politely, ushering me into a conference room lined with law books that probably cost more than my first year in business. Margaret Richards entered a moment later, silver hair, razor-sharp eyes, a suit tailored to command respect. Mr. Clark, she said, shaking my hand, you sounded urgent on the phone. I am, I replied. I'm not looking for revenge. Margaret, I'm looking for clarity. I laid the binders on the table, 5 in total, thick with receipts and statements. Education, transportation, housing, personal, wedding. She opened one, scanned a few pages, and looked up. You kept impeccable records. Construction teaches you to measure twice and cut once. I said, apparently, parenthood doesn't. She smiled faintly. Tell me what happened. I told her everything, from the marble ballroom to the words immediate family only. Her expression never changed, but her pen moved fast across a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back. This level of documentation allows reclassification. What you considered gifts can legally be defined as recoverable loans. Recoverable, I repeated. Meaning? Meaning you have leverage. We can issue a formal demand for repayment. 30 days. Itemized. Signed. Official. I stared at the mountain of paperwork between us. I don't want to destroy her life. Margaret folded her hands. You won't. You'll introduce her to responsibility. There's a difference. Her assistant entered with a laptop and began typing the letter while Margaret dictated. Pursuant to documentation provided, the undersigned hereby demands repayment of the sum of $937,000 within 30 days of receipt of this notice. Hearing the words out loud was surreal. Each syllable weighed more than money ever could. Margaret looked up. Shall we proceed? I nodded once. Do it. By 11 o'clock, everything was printed, stamped, and sealed under her firm's embossed letterhead. The demand was businesslike, no sentiment, no blame, just numbers, dates, and consequences. It would reach Emily within hours. When I stepped back outside, the cold wind hit me like truth itself. I stood by the truck for a long time, watching people hurry past with their coffees and phones, their small problems. I used to envy those lives, ordinary, uncomplicated. Now I pitied them. They had no idea how freeing accountability could feel. At 2:15, my phone rang. A courier's voice crackled through the speaker. Delivery confirmed. Mr. Clark. Signed for by Emily Clark Anderson at the Spokane Grand Hotel. Room 1247. Thank you, I said quietly, and hung up. I pictured the scene. The hotel desk clerk calling their suite about a document delivery. Michael, still smug in his tailored vest, tearing the envelope open. Emily leaning over his shoulder, expecting vendor paperwork. And then seeing my name printed across the top, followed by the total, $937,000. The phone started buzzing 30 minutes later. Emily. I let it ring twice before answering. Dad, what is this? It's a formal demand for repayment, I said evenly. Her voice cracked. You can't be serious. $900,000? You never said any of that was a loan. I never said it was a gift either. This is insane. You're ruining my marriage. Michael's family is freaking out. Then perhaps you should explain to them how your life has been financed for the past 25 years. Dad, please, let's talk privately, not like this. This is private, Emily, between a father and a daughter who needs to grow up. Silence filled the line, broken only by the faint sound of her sobbing. I almost softened, almost. Dad, please, she whispered. I didn't mean what I said at the wedding. I was nervous. I didn't want to embarrass Michael. You embarrassed yourself, I said quietly. All I did was stop paying for it. I ended the call. That night, I sat in my study again, the letter's copy resting under my hand. Outside, rain tapped softly on the window, rhythmic and calm. For the first time in years, my mind matched that rhythm. I wasn't angry anymore, just resolved. Love had made me generous. Pain had made me precise. Somewhere in a hotel across town, Emily was reading every line of that letter, realizing the foundation of her perfect life had always been built on my silent sacrifices. And now those foundations had invoices attached. This wasn't revenge. This was accounting, of money, of effort, of love. Tomorrow the world would call it harsh. But years from now, maybe she'd call it fair. The morning after the letter was delivered, I woke to a sound I hadn't heard in years, my phone vibrating nonstop. At first, I thought it was Emily again, but when I reached for it, the screen was full of notifications. Facebook tags, mentions, missed calls from old friends. I opened one of the messages and froze. There it was, a photo from Emily's wedding, posted publicly. She looked beautiful, radiant, her smile wide enough to hide the chaos I'd caused. The caption beneath it read, "My heart is broken. My father ruined my wedding out of spite. He canceled every vendor, embarrassed me in front of hundreds of guests. And now he's demanding money from me. I don't know why a parent would do this to their child." 10,000 likes, hundreds of comments. Words like toxic, abusive, and control freak filled the thread like a swarm of locusts. And then I saw the name Michael Anderson replying beneath her post. She doesn't deserve this. No one should be humiliated by their own father on their wedding day. It didn't take long for the local gossip pages to pick it up. By noon, people were messaging me, asking what happened. By 1, I'd received 3 calls from longtime business partners, cautious, uncomfortable calls. "James, I saw something online. Is everything all right? Hey buddy, people are saying you sued your daughter? That can't be true, right? I just want to know you're okay. Man, this stuff can really hurt a reputation." That last word, reputation, stuck to my skin like oil. In Spokane, reputation was currency, and mine had always been worth something. Until that morning. I opened Facebook and read through more of the comments. "Money doesn't buy love." He sounds like a bitter man. Some parents can't handle their kids growing up. It was strange how quickly people chose sides when they only knew half the story. But then again, Emily had always been good at half-truths. She'd learned from a young age that if you cried just right, the world would hand you sympathy. I closed the app, took a deep breath, and then I smiled, not out of anger, but realization. She'd chosen the wrong battlefield. Social media thrives on emotions. But real justice? Real power? That lives on paper. By 2 p.m., I was back in Margaret Richards' office. She looked up from her computer as I entered. "Let me guess," she said, "public backlash?" I nodded, setting my phone on her desk. "She's painting herself as a victim." Margaret scrolled through the post, her face unreadable, predictable. "But we can turn this around. Do you still have all the documentation in digital format?" "Every cent," I said. "Then we go public, on our terms." Her assistant began organizing the files while Margaret drafted a short press release. Nothing dramatic, no anger, just facts. At 9 the next morning, we would publish 25 years of documented financial support, every tuition payment, car purchase, and rent transfer, itemized and verified. James, she said softly before I left, this will hurt her pride. I'm not trying to hurt her pride, I replied, I'm trying to restore mine. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking about all the sacrifices behind those numbers. The nights I skipped dinner so she could have ballet lessons. The vacation I canceled to pay for her laptop. The truck I never replaced so she could drive something better. For years, I thought love meant never letting her feel consequences. Now I realized that was the same as never letting her grow up. When dawn came, I brewed coffee, opened my laptop, and uploaded every document Margaret had prepared. Receipts, bank statements, college invoices, car titles. Each one labeled neatly with a date, amount, and purpose. The headline read, "For 25 years, I supported my daughter. These are the facts." At exactly 9 a.m., the post went live. Within an hour, it was everywhere. Local business forums, parent groups, news blogs. Screenshots of my records circulated faster than gossip. Each page told the real story. $126 for private school. $284,000 for Northwestern. $75,000 for cars. $125,000 for rent. $180,000 for personal expenses. $147,000 for the wedding. The comments started changing. Wait, she let her dad pay almost $1 million and still kicked him out? That's not cruelty, that's accountability. My parents helped me through college and I'm still paying them back. This woman sounds spoiled. By noon, the same people who'd called me cruel were now calling me brave. The local paper, Spokane Business Journal, called that afternoon. We'd like to run a feature, the reporter said, about financial responsibility and entitlement. Would you agree to comment? I agreed, but only on one condition. I don't want to name call. I said, this isn't about destroying anyone. It's about what happens when love turns into a blank check. By evening, my phone was buzzing again, but this time, with messages of support. James, you did the right thing. I wish my dad had set boundaries like that. You just taught an entire generation a lesson. Even my oldest friend, Bob Martinez, who had called that morning with doubt, sent a text that night. You're a better man than I thought. And a damn good father. The tide had turned. The truth, when written in ink and signed with sacrifice, always wins. But while the world applauded, I couldn't shake the image of Emily. Sitting in that hotel room, watching her perfect online world crumble under the weight of real numbers. Real accountability. Somewhere between love and correction, there's a line no parent wants to cross. I had crossed it. And though I didn't regret it, I knew it would leave a scar on both of us. Still, I reminded myself, scars are proof of healing, not just hurt. That night, as the sun went down over Spokane, I sat at my desk, scrolling through the last of the comments. Most were supportive, a few cruel, but none of them mattered anymore. I closed my laptop and whispered to the empty room. Reputation restored. I poured myself a drink and looked out the window at the quiet streets below. Inside that silence, I found peace again, the kind that comes not from revenge, but from finally standing tall. Tomorrow would bring new headlines. But tonight, for the first time in a long time, I felt like a man who had built something solid, not with concrete or nails, but with truth. And truth, unlike money, doesn't run out. 3 days. That's all it took for Emily's perfect world to crumble. By Wednesday morning, the same people who toasted her under chandeliers were whispering her name in disgust. Her social circle, the elite, polished friends she once flaunted, had gone silent. Even the Anderson family, with all their money and pride, had begun to distance themselves. I didn't need to check social media to know what was happening. In a small city like Spokane, reputation moves faster than wildfire. And Emily had given it the perfect kindling: entitlement, arrogance, and public humiliation. Still, when the phone rang that morning, I wasn't expecting the voice on the other end. "Mr. Clark?" The voice was low, cautious. "This is Bob Anderson, Michael's father." I leaned back in my chair. "Mr. Anderson, what can I do for you?" A pause. "I wanted to discuss the recent situation. It's causing quite a stir in our circles." "I'm aware." He cleared his throat. "Look, I don't know all the details between you and Emily, but this kind of publicity hurts everyone involved." I smiled faintly, though he couldn't see it. "I didn't start it." "No, but you finished it rather effectively." His tone tightened. "Michael's business prospects are being questioned. Some partners don't like being associated with controversy." "That sounds like a personal problem," I said evenly. Another pause. "Mr. Clark, perhaps we can find a way to resolve this quietly. Take down your post. Make a statement clarifying that this was a misunderstanding." I almost laughed. "A misunderstanding that lasted 25 years? He sighed. "You're making this harder than it needs to be." "Harder," I repeated, my voice cooling. "Your family called me working class trash at the engagement party. My daughter told me I didn't belong in her world. So forgive me, Mr. Anderson, if I finally decided to build a world where I do." He didn't respond. When the line went dead, I sat there in silence, feeling a strange calm wash over me. For years, I'd been silent out of love. Now, my silence had weight. It carried consequences. By noon, I got another call, this time from Margaret. "James," she said, "I think you should see this." She sent a link. It was a local news segment. The anchor's voice was crisp, professional. "The viral case of Spokane businessman James Clark has sparked nationwide debate about financial responsibility. Documents confirm Clark paid nearly $1 million supporting his daughter, who later excluded him from her wedding. The story has reignited conversations about entitlement and gratitude in modern families." The camera cut to comments from community leaders, all of them praising the lesson. The dignity, the restraint. Then came the line that hit me hardest. "This isn't revenge, it's accountability." That's what I had said to myself days ago, sitting in my truck outside that ballroom. Now the world was saying it for me. Meanwhile, Emily was drowning. I didn't have to imagine it, people told me. Word travels fast when drama tastes like scandal. Her old college roommate posted, "Money can't buy class." Some people learn that too late. Former sorority sisters quietly unfollowed her. Vendors began suing for breach of contract. Then came the real blow: Michael's family. At 6:47 a.m. Thursday, my phone buzzed with a message from one of our mutual contacts at the country club. Michael's father just told the board he's cutting all ties with Emily. He called her a liability. I closed my eyes and exhaled slowly. I'd known it was coming, but the reality still hurt. No parent wants to see their child destroyed, even when they caused the wreck themselves. That afternoon, the inevitable happened. The call I'd been expecting for days. "Dad." Her voice was hoarse, broken. I didn't answer right away. I wanted her to speak first. "Michael's gone," she whispered. "His family told him to come home. To protect their reputation. He packed his things and left this morning." I could picture her there, in that expensive hotel suite now littered with champagne flutes and broken dreams. Her wedding dress still hanging in the closet, a symbol of everything she thought she deserved but never earned. "I don't know what to do," she said, her voice trembling. "Everyone's turned against me. My friends won't answer. The vendors are threatening legal action. And Michael." She stopped to breathe, then said it quietly. "Michael said he wished he'd never met me." I closed my eyes. There it was, the fall. The moment she hit bottom. "Emily," I said softly, "do you remember the last time we talked before your wedding?" She hesitated. "Yes. You said I didn't fit in with your world. That I didn't understand the kind of people who'd be there." "I didn't mean it," she said quickly. "I was trying to impress them. I was stupid." "No," I said, "you were honest. And I'm glad you were. Because now you see the kind of world you were trying to belong to." There was silence on the line. followed by the faint sound of her crying. "Dad, I don't have money for the hotel bill tonight." I looked at the stack of invoices still on my desk, the record of every time she'd said those same words before. Except this time, she didn't sound entitled. She sounded small, human. "I'll think about it," I said quietly. "Please," she whispered, "just one night." I didn't answer. Not yet. When I hung up, the house felt unbearably still. But for the first time, I wasn't angry. Because she was finally feeling what I'd felt for years, abandonment. And sometimes, pain is the only teacher that works. The next morning, I drove past the old job site where Clark Construction first began. My name was still on the sign out front, weathered, scratched, but unbroken. The same couldn't be said for the Andersons. The Spokane Business Journal had published a follow-up piece. This one focused not on me, but on the aftermath. The headline read, "Entitlement has a cost, the Spokane wedding scandal." The article detailed how vendors had reclaimed thousands in goods and services. How the Anderson family's business reputation was faltering under social scrutiny. But the final paragraph was the one that mattered. James Clark's silence during the ordeal has become symbolic. A man who taught an entire city that love without gratitude leads to destruction. I folded the paper, placed it on my passenger seat, and stared out at the half-finished building before me. The concrete foundation stood firm, waiting for walls to rise. I'd built hundreds like it. But the one foundation I'd ignored all these years, respect, was the only one that truly mattered. I wasn't rebuilding my daughter's life. I was rebuilding mine. And for the first time since that wedding, I felt something close to peace. Saturday morning. The kind of morning that used to start with coffee and quiet. But that day, the silence felt heavier, like it was waiting for something. I knew before it happened that Emily would call again, not because I wanted her to, but because there was nowhere else left for her to go. The phone buzzed just after 8. I stared at her name flashing on the screen, Emily Anderson. The name she had been so proud to take. The name that was now falling apart. For a long moment, I just let it ring. Then, finally, I answered. Her voice was different this time. No anger. No entitlement. No fake composure. Just exhaustion. "Dad," she whispered, "I don't know where to start." "Then start with the truth," I said softly. There was silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing, shaky and uneven. "I lost everything," she finally said. "Michael's gone. His family doesn't want anything to do with me. My friends stopped answering my calls. I don't even have money for tonight's hotel bill." She paused, voice trembling. "Everyone hates me." I closed my eyes and leaned back in my chair. There it was, the truth. The one she had been running from her whole life. "Do you understand why this happened?" I asked quietly. "I think so," she said, "because I treated you like a bank account instead of a person. Because I was selfish. Because I stopped being your daughter and turned into a spoiled stranger." Her words hit harder than I expected. For years, I had imagined this moment, hearing her admit what I'd known all along. But now that it was real, it didn't feel like victory. It felt sad, necessary, but sad. "Go on," I said. "I saw the financial records you posted," she continued. "The tuition, the cars, the rent, almost $1 million. I never asked where the money came from. I never said thank you. I just assumed it would always be there." Her voice cracked. "And then I told you you didn't belong at my wedding. The wedding you paid for." Her confession came out in broken gasps. "I don't know who that person was. Dad, I don't even like her. I was so afraid of looking poor. Of being judged by people who didn't matter. I hurt the one person who actually did." I stayed silent. I wanted her to keep going, not to punish her, but because I knew that saying the truth out loud is the only way it becomes real. "I tried to destroy your reputation," she admitted next. "I told people lies. I asked Michael's family to help make you look crazy. But when your documents went public, when everyone saw what you'd really done for me." She broke down completely. I've never felt so ashamed in my life. I took a deep breath. "Emily," I said slowly, "do you remember when you were 8? You'd just lost your mother. Every night you'd crawl into my bed and say, "Daddy, read me another story." She sniffled. I remember. I told you then that no matter what happened, I'd always love you, and I meant it, but somewhere along the way, giving you everything became the reason you stopped loving me back. She was quiet for a long time. Then, barely above a whisper, "I never stopped loving you, Dad, I just stopped showing it. I thought money was proof of love. I thought having more meant I was worth more." Her voice broke again. "But now that I have nothing, I finally understand how much I had." I closed my eyes. For a brief second, I could almost see her again, the little girl with ribbons in her hair, sitting cross-legged on the floor, coloring while I worked. The girl who used to run to the door when I came home. The one who believed her father could fix anything. "Emily," I said finally, "what do you want from me now?" She hesitated. "I don't want money. I want a chance to make things right. I want to earn your respect again." Her words trembled but didn't break. "I want to be someone you can be proud of. But right now, I just need help surviving long enough to prove I can change." For a long moment, I said nothing. I could hear the faint hum of traffic outside her hotel window, the distant clink of glass from the hallway. A world still moving, even as hers had stopped. Finally, I spoke. "If I help you this time, there will be conditions." "Anything," she said quickly. "I'll do anything. You'll find a job within 2 weeks. I don't care if it's cleaning offices or weighing tables. Pride is a luxury you can't afford anymore." "I understand. No requests for money for 6 months. You'll live on what you earn." "Yes. We'll talk once a week," I continued, "but as two adults, not as a dependent and a parent." "I want that," she said softly. "I want to earn being your daughter again." I nodded, though she couldn't see me. "I'll transfer $1,000 to your account. That covers 1 week at the hotel and some groceries. After that, you're on your own." She started to cry again. "Thank you, Dad." I didn't say, "You're welcome." Instead, I said the truth. "You don't deserve it, Emily, but everyone deserves one chance to grow up, even at 28. There was a pause. Then she said something that caught me off guard. "I love you, Dad." For a second, the words hung there, fragile, trembling, like a bridge rebuilt out of ashes. I swallowed hard. "I've always loved you too. Now I want to see if I can respect you again." "Dad," she said, her voice quiet but steady, "I won't let you down. Not this time." "We'll see," I replied gently. "Love you, sweetheart." When the call ended, I stared at the phone for a long time. For the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't allowed myself to feel: hope. Not because everything was fixed. It wasn't. But because, for the first time in her life, Emily wasn't pretending anymore. And maybe, just maybe, that was the beginning of something real. Outside, the wind carried the scent of rain through the open window. I sat there listening to it, letting the quiet wash over me. This wasn't revenge. This was redemption, not just hers, but mine too. 2 weeks passed. Then a month. And for the first time in 28 years, Emily kept her word. She didn't ask for money. She didn't call to complain. Instead, every Sunday morning, my phone would buzz with a quiet message. "Hi Dad, just checking in. I'm okay." At first, that was all she said. But over time, those 3 words began to grow roots. The second week, she added, "Got a job at a coffee shop. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. Feels strange to earn my own paycheck, but also good." I remember staring at that message for a long time. The same girl who once cried because her luxury car didn't match her friend's now stood behind a counter, pouring coffee for strangers. It wasn't punishment, it was perspective. By week 4, she sent a photo, a small apartment key resting on her palm. "First place I've ever paid rent on my own. Tiny, but it's mine." I didn't reply right away. Instead, I sat at my kitchen table, looking out at the rain tapping against the window, and realized something. For years, I had given Emily everything except the one thing she needed most, the chance to earn something herself. Blank. Underscore, blank. Our Sunday calls became a ritual. She'd tell me about the customers who complained about oat milk, about her coworker Maya who reminded her that kindness mattered more than appearance. And for the first time in years, her laughter didn't sound rehearsed. It sounded real. One Sunday, she said, "Dad, do you remember that spreadsheet you showed the world? The one with every expense?" "How could I forget? I printed it out," she said. "It's taped above my desk. Not to guilt myself, but to remind me what love actually costs, and how much I wasted before I understood." There was a pause. "I want to repay it one day. All of it." I smiled faintly. "It's not about the money anymore, Emily." "I know," she said quietly. "It's about respect, and I finally understand what that word means." 3 months later, she drove up to my house for the first time since the wedding. I watched through the window as her old BMW, the one I'd bought her years ago, pulled into the driveway. A little beat up now, but still running. She stepped out in a plain blouse, jeans, and sneakers. No designer labels, no pretense, just my daughter. "Hey, Dad." Her smile was small, nervous, but genuine. We stood there for a long second, both unsure what to do. Then I opened my arms. She came closer, hesitated, and then hugged me. It wasn't one of those polite, social hugs. It was tight, trembling, like two people finally meeting again after being lost in different worlds. "You look good," I said. "You look tired," she teased softly. "Comes with being your father." She laughed through a tear. "Fair enough." Inside, I made her coffee, black, the way I drink it. She used to hate it. This time, she didn't complain. We sat at the kitchen table where I'd once done her homework with her, where I'd signed tuition checks, where I'd eaten dinner alone for years. "So," I said, "tell me about life in the real world." "It's humbling," she admitted, "but I like it. My boss says I'm one of the few people who actually shows up early." "Early?" I raised an eyebrow. "That's new." She smiled. "I know." Then, after a pause, she added, "Dad, I'm sorry it took losing everything to finally see you." I nodded slowly. Sometimes we need to break before we understand what's worth fixing. She reached into her purse and pulled out a small envelope. "I've been saving a little from every paycheck," she said. "It's not much, but I want to start repaying what I owe." I looked at the envelope, maybe a few $100s at most, and shook my head. "Emily," I said gently, pushing it back toward her. "Keep it, use it for your life. My repayment is watching you grow into someone I can respect." Tears filled her eyes. "Do you really mean that?" "I do." We sat in silence for a long time. The kind of silence that didn't hurt anymore. Outside, the rain had stopped. Sunlight filtered through the clouds, landing softly on the table between us. It wasn't forgiveness that filled the space, it was understanding. Forgiveness fades, understanding endures. 6 months later, she called me again, but this time, it wasn't about money or guilt. It was to share good news. "Dad," she said, "I got promoted." "Already?" "Yeah, assistant manager. Turns out showing up early actually matters." I laughed. "Who knew?" She paused. "I wanted you to be the first to know." I felt something warm spread through me, not pride. Exactly, but peace. The kind that comes when life finally makes sense. "I'm proud of you, Emily," I said. And this time, she didn't cry. She just said, "Thank you, Dad." That night, as I sat by my window, the city lights flickering in the distance, I thought about everything that had happened. The wedding, the humiliation, the silence. And then I thought about the calls, the work, the small apartment with a single key. Maybe that's what justice really looks like, not punishment, but growth. Not revenge, but realization. People think silence means weakness. But sometimes, silence is the loudest lesson of all. I didn't need to shout to prove I was right. I just needed to stop paying for the lies and let the truth speak for itself. And in the end, that truth didn't just change her. It changed me too. A few months later, Emily came by again. No makeup, no excuses, just a smile and a box of pastries from the cafe she managed now. "Still black coffee?" she asked. Always. We sat together in quiet contentment as the morning light poured in. No speeches, no apologies, just peace. When she left that day, she hugged me tightly and whispered, "Thanks for not giving up on me." I smiled, watching her walk away, shoulders straight, steps sure. "I never did," I said softly. "Once she was gone, I just waited for you to find your way back." And for the first time in a long, long time, I felt like both of us had finally come home. If you've listened this far, remember, sometimes love looks like sacrifice. Sometimes it looks like distance. And sometimes it looks like silence. Because silence isn't revenge, it's the space where people finally hear the truth. Sometimes the loudest words are the ones we never say. James didn't destroy his daughter's life. He gave her a chance to rebuild it. Not through anger, but through silence. Because love without gratitude becomes a burden. And sometimes, the only way to teach someone the value of love is to stop giving it away for free. If this story moved you, take a deep breath and think about the people who've stood by you in silence. Don't wait until the world takes them away to realize what they meant. Tell us in the comments. Do you think James did the right thing? Would you have done the same if you were in his place? And if you believe silence can be more powerful than revenge, subscribe to Revenge in Silence for more real, soul-shaking stories like this one. Because sometimes, justice doesn't shout, it whispers.